Hey there, music lovers. Welcome to another exciting episode of Rabbit Tales. I'm your host, Nolani Kite, and today we're diving into something absolutely incredible, a computer program that can compose classical music. Imagine a robot that can write beautiful songs just like Mozart or Beethoven. Well, that's exactly what we're going to learn about today. It's called NotaGen, and it's an amazing piece of technology that can create sheet music all by itself. Get ready to discover how computers are becoming musical geniuses and making their own masterpieces. Have you ever wondered how musicians learn to write their own songs? Well, they usually start by listening to lots and lots of music, practicing their instrument, and learning from other composers. NotaGen does something very similar, except it's a computer program instead of a person. Think of NotaGen like a super smart student who has listened to over 1.6 million pieces of music. That's more songs than anyone could listen to in their whole life. Just like how you might learn to write stories by reading lots of books, NotaGen learned to write music by studying millions of different songs and understanding how they work. It's kind of like having a huge musical library in its brain. NotaGen knows about all sorts of music, from simple piano pieces to big orchestra performances. It learned about different styles, how different instruments work together, and even the special rules that make music sound good. And just like how you might practice writing stories until they get better and better, NotaGen keeps learning and improving its music writing skills. Let me tell you about something really cool. The special language NotaGen uses to write music. You know how we use letters to write words and tell stories? Well, NotaGen uses something called ABC notation, which is like a secret code for writing music. Instead of using regular musical notes that you might see in your piano books, ABC notation uses regular letters and numbers to write music. It's kind of like writing a text message to tell someone how to play a song. The letter A means one note, B means another note, and so on, just like how we use different letters to spell words. When NotaGen wants to write a piece for multiple instruments, it's like writing different character parts in a story. Each instrument gets its own special voice, and NotaGen knows exactly how to write for them all at once. It can write parts for violins, pianos, flutes, and even entire orchestras. Think about when you're writing a story. You need to know where to put spaces, periods, and question marks, right? Well, NotaGen needs to know where to put musical things like rests, tempos, and dynamics. It's learned all these musical punctuation marks too, so the music flows just right when people play it. Now, let me share how NotaGen became such a talented composer. Just like how a music student needs to practice lots of different pieces to get better, NotaGen learned by studying nearly 9,000 classical music pieces. Can you imagine practicing that many songs? NotaGen didn't just learn one style of music, it studied pieces from three main periods of classical music. First, there's Baroque music, which is from really old times when composers like Bach were writing. Then there's classical music, from when Mozart was creating his masterpieces. And finally, there's romantic music, which is full of big emotions and dramatic sounds. But that's not all. NotaGen also learned to write for different types of instruments and groups. It can write pieces for solo piano or keyboard, just like you might play at home. It knows how to compose for small chamber groups, like string quartets, where four instruments play together. It can even write for huge orchestras with dozens of instruments all playing at once. It also learned how to write songs for singers, both solo performers and entire choirs. Think of it like having different teachers for different instruments, one teaching piano, another teaching violin, and another teaching singing. NotaGen took all these lessons and learned how to write music for each type perfectly. Just like how a music teacher listens to their students play and helps them improve, NotaGen has a special way of getting better at writing music. It uses something called SLAMP DPO, which is like having a super smart music critic that can instantly tell if a piece of music sounds good or needs work. When NotaGen writes a new piece, this musical critic listens to it and gives feedback. If something doesn't sound quite right, NotaGen learns from that feedback and tries to do better next time. It's exactly like when your teacher tells you to practice a tricky part of a song again. Except NotaGen can practice thousands of times in just a few minutes. The really cool thing is that NotaGen has gotten so good at understanding music that it can now write all sorts of different styles. It's not just stuck writing classical music anymore. It can create beautiful piano solos, write music for string quartets, compose for full orchestras, and even write catchy pop songs. Imagine having a friend who could play any kind of music you asked for, anytime you wanted. That's what NotaGen can do. And the best part? NotaGen keeps getting better and better at writing music that people actually enjoy listening to. It's learned to follow musical rules while still being creative, just like how real composers do. Sometimes, when people listen to NotaGen's music, they can't even tell that it was written by a computer. Isn't it amazing to think that we now have computers that can compose beautiful music? NotaGen is like a musical genius that never stops learning and creating. It can write classical masterpieces, fun pop songs, and everything in between, all by understanding and loving music just like we do. I hope this peek into the world of AI music has sparked your curiosity and imagination. Maybe someday you'll hear a beautiful piece of music on the radio or in a concert hall, and it might just be something that NotaGen created. The future of music is full of endless possibilities, and AI composers like NotaGen are helping to write that future, one note at a time. Thanks for joining me today on Rabbit Tales. Keep your ears open and your mind curious, and I'll catch you next time.